Hello to everybody, glad to join you. And my name is Sandis Semionos. I'm a TV journalist and also film director. And we are doing environmental program for more than 20 years on Latvian public television. So I'm very happy to moderate today's discussion. And today is real Green Deal Day in Latvia. At least 4 dedicated events are taking place on various platforms. Our commission representative alone is hosting 2 green events. Our discussion, European Green Deal and Beyond, will be opening salvo, and I welcome all participants who have joined us online from far and wide. So, European Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries, Virginijus Sinkevičius. Hello, do you hear us?
Hello, yes, I can hear you well. I think in Latvian is like in Lithuanian, sveiki is the key word.
Yeah. How are you today? Is it okay?
We're good, thank you.
Miss Alda Ozola, she represents Ministry of Environment and she is Deputy Secretary of State. Hello, Alda.
Hello, Commissioner and Sandy.
We are glad to see you and to have you in discussion today.
Pleased to be here, yes, thanks.
Thank you. And our third panelist is Jānis Brizga. He is a researcher at Latvian University and at the same time he is NGO chair of board in the Green Liberty, at Green Liberty. Jānis?
Hello everyone, and nice to be with all of you.
Okay. So on December 1st, we marked 1 year since European Commission led by President Ursula von der Leyen has taken office, and to take a stock of achievements so far and to chart the future, Virginijus Sinkevičius, Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries, is holding series of citizens dialogue. So this is one of the parts. So the aim of the event is discuss European Green Deal, biodiversity, circular economy, zero pollution, and other policies to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. Of course, due to pandemic, dialogue are taking place online. Therefore, I welcome everyone who is following the discussion. Of course, online, I hope maybe next year we will be face to face. But anyway, you can see us on Zoom, Facebook, news portal Delphi, also on TVNet. So the aim of the event is to have open and active debate. Therefore, I invite everybody to comment and ask questions on Facebook account for European Commission representation of Latvia or in the Zoom chat room. So you are very welcome. And I will read out the questions because we are, we are shortage of time and that's why. But also, we have questions who was sent before, so I hope we will go through during the discussion. So at first, I would like to give the word Andris Kuznieks. He's an active head of European Commission representation in Latvia. So, Andris, please, your welcoming speech.
Yes. Hello to everybody. Welcome to Latvia, Commissioner. Welcome to Latvia, although virtually. But we hope very much that in a very near future you will be able to visit also Latvia in capacity of Commissioner. I'm sitting in EU House, that's the place of the debates, and I'm also very happy that we can debate European Green Deal. And as rightly Sandis mentioned, it's a great day for a European Green Deal. I should mention another very important event, that is the European Council meeting, meaning the leaders of European states are debating more ambitious climate targets, and we hope very much that they will be agreed during the course of today and tomorrow. Commissioner, I think you have very heavy portfolio because if we count that 70% of Earth are oceans and waters, This is a very heavy portfolio which Ursula von der Leyen has put on you. But I mean, to be also very serious, I think there is a great interest amongst also Latvian population in Green Deal. There are various stakeholder groups, youth, and everybody else who are interested and very much committed to European Green Deal. So I wish everybody excellent discussion, and also I should wish Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, because we are closing the year very soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andris. And as I understand also, in today's discussion, we have youngest commissioner in the European Union. Is it right?
Is that for me question to confirm? Then yes, I confirm
yes,
that
yes.
My age.
Okay, and we will start with you. Europe is have aim to become a first climate neutral continent by 2050. And what is how do you see? Is it possible to achieve it? And what has been to what has been done by Commission to target it?
So first of all, again, hello to everyone, sveiki to everyone, and thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you for organizing and getting such an excellent speakers, and thank you, Sandis, for taking care of our discussion. So I'm very happy to be with you all today. Fortunately, it's online citizens dialogue in Latvia, but I hope that with this situation getting better, we will make one live citizen dialogue somewhere in Riga. And this is a second of series of such dialogue that taking place virtually in many member states. So I hope that, of course, for Latvia is going to be also an interesting one. It's a special one because, as you mentioned, Commission works for 1 year, and a year ago, Commission not only started its work, but it also rolled out its first key initiative, the European Green Deal. And the major goal of that initiative is climate neutrality by 2050. But most importantly, that the European Green Deal is our new growth strategy, and the strategy that is going to guide our recovery work after the COVID pandemic. Most importantly, this is the strategy that respects the planet's boundaries by proposing solutions for a long term. And however, climate change, biodiversity loss, the scarcity of secondary raw materials, and the pollution of our soil, water, and air, it's going to be huge challenges. So the policies we invest in now will decide how resilient we will be in future crises. And that's why we also decided to organize this basically dialogue purely focusing on the European Green Deal. Now, coming to your question, do I think is it possible to achieve climate neutrality by 2050? I will say absolutely yes. And as I said already, the European Green Deal is our growth strategy, job strategy, and also recovery pathway. And we believe that the climate neutrality objective by 2050 and the ambitious, of course, target by 2030, we shouldn't forget that there is so many years and still things to be achieved before hitting that 2050 mark. They are achievable. Yes, it is an ambitious plan, but yet it's achievable, and it's of course been done and adopted after a very careful stakeholders consultation, taking into account scientific advice, looking at the socio-economic impact, basically doing the full impact assessment. And I can reassure you that despite that COVID-19 crisis at the moment occupied our lives, we still are on track with the Green Deal objectives. And I was also glad to see that, you know, we find not only ourselves by the table, because if you take a year ago, we were criticized, Commission was criticized quite a lot, that what happens if you are the only one who actually achieved that climate neutrality. And today we have Japan, South Korea, China, a bit less ambitious. They said that they will achieve climate neutrality by 2060, but we have Australia, New Zealand, and also United Kingdom, who are actually even more ambitious than us. So I'm happy that we are not on our own by that table, but we have even more ambitious ones. And of course, with the new elections in the US, we expect US joining us soon. So the combination of the Green Deal, the pandemic, and the money available for the recovery is actually an opportunity for the modernization of the European economies, making it more energy and resource efficient, climate, and of course environment friendly. And would be a huge mistake by using those public money, with the huge amount of public money to be invested in the economies, not to build back better. And I think this is not only an aspiration. We know, for instance, that renewable, for example, energy is nowadays fully competitive with fossil fuels and sometimes even cheaper. We also know that in the last few years, economic growth was decoupled from greenhouse gas emissions in the EU, I say about last 10 years. And we also know that the circular economy creates growth, jobs, and most importantly, attracts investment. So to be competitive, Europe must base its economy on an efficient use of energy and resources, and this is what the Green Deal is about.
Yeah, thank you. You gave a very good overview. We'll continue with Alda. So Alda, if you look at the European Green Deal, could you please describe what is mostly likely to change in people's everyday life in the next few years, and how?
Thank you, Sandis, for a very good question, and thanks to Commissioner who already described the essence of the Green Deal. And we are all very much as public sector also involved in designing policies that are relevant to get to reach the Green Deal. And the Green Deal is very much about transformation of economies and transformation of societies. So if we look at how it will affect citizens, probably there are, I would like to name three major areas in order for us to reach climate neutrality, circularity, and so on. There will be three major blocks or aspects of life that will change over next 10 years and for some more years to come if we look into longer future. So one is a mobility system. This is how we move, what vehicles we use. It is expected that we will use more electric vehicles. We will shift to low emission transportation and other mobility measures, more distance working, as we all are experiencing it already this year, but it will have to change, and so that is one of the aspects of change. Another aspect is the building sector. That is also part of the Green Deal, the renovation wave, increasing energy efficiency, making also sure that all newly built buildings are zero emission buildings. So it means more insulation of existing buildings, bringing higher comfort of living to people, lower energy bills for heating or cooling, depending on part of Europe where we live. Also changes in how the offices are designed and so on. And then major changes also are expected for the food sector because agriculture and food sector is also the sectors with rather huge environmental footprint. And the new farm to fork strategy also outlines the need to cut on use of pesticides in order for us to reach environmental goals and improve environment. And all in all, there are also many other aspects of Green Deal. And if we look to 2030 and how the life would look like for citizens, I would like to hope that we are successful in implementing all the policies which would reduce pollution and environment. So the Commission is also proposing the new strategy, pollution-free Europe. It means less toxic substances in our everyday life, in different consumer products, in environment, cleaner air, particularly in cities. The cities should also become greener, and also we should restore biodiversity or nature as such, because there is also a huge challenge that lie ahead of us. And probably how to get there. Another thing I want to mention is the role of the public sector, because we as a public sector are responsible to create pathways for these different lines of actions to actually be able to take place. This transition and the green transformation should be carried out in a socially just way. We have to make sure that everybody is on board and nobody is left behind. So we cannot only make sticks to prevent different polluting activities from happening, but we also need to create carrots or subsidies or help to retrain people, make them help ahead with new skills that are required for this green economy. And then by 2030, we should be able to reach the aims of the Green Deal. So I'm confident we are able to do that. Thank you.
Same. I also think we will achieve the targets, and thank you for your ideas. And we have, I see, 76 participants. So still we are waiting for questions. We have questions which was sent before, but before we'll go to discussion, also one question to Jānis Brizga, and it is about how you see perspective. What are the most important challenges in implementing the European Green Deal in Latvia? Jānis?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you for giving the floor. I appreciate the Commission's ambitions in a Green New Deal and going forward with this agenda, even during the COVID pandemic crisis. I think it's very, very good. I want to stress three topics which would be very important both for Latvia and for EU in general. I think it's trajectory towards climate neutrality in 2050, how we get there. It's a circular economy, how we actually minimize the resource use and consumption and waste production, as well as biodiversity and agriculture. I think these are the three main elements where we have to put most of our energy and focus. Today, the European Commission in Brussels, the prime ministers of all the heads of state actually are discussing the new targets for 2030. So that's a very important moment to really understand how we can reshape the existing trajectory, and we will see today or tomorrow how ambitious actually the EU leaders are in this regard. I think it's very important that now there is it's only 20, 30 years before we have to reach this target. So it's not very much of the time. And there is still a lot of discussions, both in Latvia and in EU, for developing fossil-based infrastructures like gas pipelines and other projects which are not really in line with the climate neutrality targets and idea. And I think there is no space for such projects in EU if we have clearly defined that we are reaching the climate neutrality in 2030. The same applies for transportation sector, where in Latvia it's one of the biggest challenges, I believe, because most of our cars, we are driving more and more private cars. We are switching actually from public transport to private cars, which is a wrong trajectory. And our cars are old and polluting. And of course, government is not going to buy everybody electric car, or we cannot afford it. And I believe in 10 years, the situation will not be different. So there is a need for bigger changes, infrastructural changes, as well as changes in people's minds and values, how we can actually go there. Today, we also published together with Oxfam and other organizations in the EU the report which shows the climate inequality, because different social groups have very, very different carbon impacts on environment. So most affluent populations have 10 or even in some cases 15 times higher carbon footprints than 50% of the poorest. So there is a need for pushing down with the carbon footprint for the richest groups of population. As well, we have to invest in energy poverty, because a lot of people cannot really afford proper energy use for heating and electricity, and so social issues should be well integrated in these issues. I understand I don't have much of the time left, but for circular economy, I believe that we have to find a way how we actually can minimize the waste production. It's not enough that we are recycling and we are circulating, but we have to slow down this material flows. And so I would propose that Latvia and EU in general adopt the maximum per capita waste production levels, which would actually limit how much energy and how much waste we are producing. As well as some of the waste management systems are not very sustainable and in line with circular economy. For example, landfilling is already banned, but in Latvia and in many other countries, now the industry is looking for incineration as a new solution, which is very limited, because you are only getting energy out of the resources, and you are actually losing all the resources which have been used. So this is very poor solution for circular economy and not really in line with that. And last point about biodiversity. Biodiversity is decreasing in Europe. We haven't reached the targets we have set before. So this is really the chance to look for solutions. And one of the biggest problems with biodiversity is land use. And land use is very closely linked with the agriculture and forestry issues. So I hope the farm to fork strategy of the EU will actually help to slow the biodiversity loss in Latvia and also in Europe in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Jānis. We will continue with questions, and we have a lot of questions sent before. And also, if you heard us and if you follow the discussion, please write some new ones, and I will read out, because time shortage, we cannot make live to everybody. But so the first question is from forestry sector, and they ask, where in which countries would you like to see the increase of harvesting? If it's not, with couple of exceptions, the well-governed and sustainable EU forests. This question to Commissioner.
Yes, now I'm not muted. Yes, thank you very much for your question. I'm not sure if I heard correct the answer, correct the question regarding harvested more.
Yeah, they ask it because it's a question from forestry sector. So
okay, so no, I would say that on contrary, actually, our goal, if you look at the EU biodiversity strategy for 2030, is actually first of all to save all old growth forests in the EU and strictly protect them. But secondly, of course, to increase the percentage of forests of of the ground covered by forest, and we plan additional actually action to plant 3 billion additional trees by 2030, so that the EU forests only grow, and there is more forests across the member states. On the other hand, what's important to mention, of course, in our biodiversity strategy, we mentioned about the greening of the cities. What Jānis, when he spoke about that more and more Latvian citizens choosing their private cars instead of public transport, that's probably an issue where the public transport is not getting comfortable enough, and the government or the municipalities doesn't form the choices for citizens. But another thing what is important is greening of the cities, so that forest comes into city with the green buildings, with more parks, with more trees, and I think this COVID-19 pandemic actually showed us very clearly that we really need nature and get nature into our cities, because it's a great spot to rest and reconnect with nature. So no, there is no goal for some member states to cut more trees or harvest more trees. It's actually on contrary, to have more forests across the EU and protect them better. No sound. You're muted, Sandis.
Yeah, I'll come back. Yeah, so we have also a question about forests from Jānis Bacāns, and he asks, at the moment we have information that forests in Latvia will reduce by 30%, same in Germany, because of Green Deal. And that will lead to huge job losses in forest sector and important state budget incomes reduction. Should we worry about this? Yeah, Commissioner, please, we'll continue.
Yes. No, I think, as you said, with the Green Deal, our goal is to increase forests. And yes, there is probably different types of rumors, but I would be looking at the official papers and official strategy for EU for biodiversity. Goals are very clear to protect 30% of land and protect 30% of waters around the EU. When we speak about those 30%, we want 10% under strict protection, and under that strict protection, we clearly mean old growth forests in the EU. Secondly, as I said, our goal is only to increase number of forests, and as we said, by planting 3 billion trees to have additional coverage of space by trees, and of course have more nature across the EU.
If I may add, Sandis, yeah, just from Latvian side as well, I would like to confirm that there is absolutely no plan to cut the forest usage by 30%, because some of the forest areas are already under protection at different stages, and we see possibly increase of protection, possibly by several percent points. But of course, it all has to be assessed after we will finish the mapping of habitats, which is the process that has been completed this year, overall mapping of habitats throughout Latvia. The results will be available next spring, and then we can see what is the situation and how to ensure the balance between interests of forestry, industry, and biodiversity protection. But there is absolutely no reason to talk about job losses and substantial cuts to industries. Thank you.
Jānis, would you like to add something? Because there is, by the way, a lot of questions from, especially from forestry sector before this discussion.
Yes, thank you. Of course, forestry is a very important sector for Latvia, and that's why the questions are coming in from the sector. But we have to understand that the forest has a much bigger role in our lives and in ecosystems. It's not only trees. So I think it's very important to understand this difference, because many forest owners look at the forest only as a harvesting area. But it has also the climate function, for example. And during the last few decades, our forest actually has moved from the sink, as it was before in the 90s, for example, to the emission source. So with our intensification of the forestry sector, we have actually lost a lot of carbon sink, which was before all the carbon stored in Latvia's forests. And this is just a question of management and how we are using. So I think that it's very important to revalue and rethink. But I totally agree that there is also the need for management solutions, how we actually compensate the landowners, the possible income losses, and how we deal with the possibilities of this dilemma between the ownership, private ownership, public goods as climate and air protection and so on. So there is a need for a wide discussion in society as well.
Yeah, for sure. And we are discussing, there is one question from fishermen, and Mr. Commissioners, they are asking, will the Green Deal mean that all of Latvia's fishing vessels will need to be cut, since fishing will be prohibited in the Baltic Sea?
Thank you very much for the question. So I will straight away, without any interpretation, will say no, because the Green Deal does not mean that the closing all fisheries in the Baltic. But of course, it means a sustainable approach to managing fisheries, as also outlined in our common fisheries policy. And we have to recognize the difficult environmental situation in the Baltic Sea. And despite that difficult situation, it has to be fully in line with the principles of sustainable fisheries and scientific advice. And the Latvian fleet will benefit in 2021 from increased fishing opportunities for herring in the Gulf of Riga, also salmon and sprat. However, we have a very critical situation for Eastern Baltic cod. And the situation is more than actually critical. Scientists have been advising to stop all fishing of Eastern Baltic cod since last year. Even with no fishing at all, the scientists do not expect the stock to recover in the midterm. So it means at least 2024. So it's true that the scientists estimate that more fish is dying from other factors than fishing. However, this is not an argument in favor of continuing fishing, which contributes to reducing the fish stocks, namely the Eastern Baltic cod. And when scientists advise that all fishing should be stopped immediately, then the Commission takes this scientific advice very seriously. And the objective of the European Green Deal and the common fisheries policy are to have sustainable fisheries and to rebuild depleted stocks as rapidly as possible. And the reason behind this is that only sustainable fish stocks and fishing practices can ensure the economic basis for fishing activities, basically a catch for our fishermen and women, and will offer a future for them and their families who depend and their livelihood depend on the catch. So against this dramatic background, the Commission proposed and the Council decided last year to stop the targeted fishing as well as recreational angling of Eastern cod. However, in order to enable other fisheries to continue to operate, these fisheries are allowed to have unavoidable bycatches of cod. And in order to mitigate the socio-economic consequences of that situation, the EU reintroduced the possibility of providing financial support from the EMFF, European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, to those fishermen and women who would like to leave the sector. This is a possibility offered in order to help them in their dire situation where they have seen their economic basis for fishing the Eastern Baltic cod disappeared. But again, this only concerns one stock, Eastern Baltic cod, and for the rest, we had even more positive results, increase, from which Latvian fleet will definitely benefit. But all I can say that all these measures are needed, and they needed not for someone else, not for NGOs or commissioners. First of all, this is the livelihood of the fishermen and women, and of course ensuring sustainability, ensuring that there is a catch in those waters, ensures their good livelihood. You muted, Sandis.
Sorry,
muted.
Yeah. Also, sorry, yeah. I forget. Also, next question goes to you, and it's about biodiversity and land. So Agnes Priede, she asks, what could be the financial instruments to be applicable to support the new EU biodiversity goals, 30% of land area under protection, knowing that most of them are on private lands. Are there multiple solutions, support from EU applicable at national level, she asks.
Thank you for the question. And I wouldn't say that we're going to need any of financial, let's say, support for private landowners in order to achieve the 30% goal, because we are not so far away actually from it. We're already at the 26%. And what we basically need to do is actually to improve management and to ensure that those protected areas are protected, but not only you know, nice sort of parks on paper, and making sure that Natura 2000 legislation is fully implemented across member states. Where those additional 4% come, well, of course, we have to very well connect those Natura 2000 areas so that they would be connected across EU, and that would allow migration of different animals. But I would say that at the moment there is definitely no financial instrument foreseen for achieving the 30%. On the other hand, if you look at in general, if you look at the condition of our soil, pollution of soil and protection of soil better, of course, I think the major financial instrument is going to be CAP, which is now being negotiated. And only with sustainable farming, we can ensure that our soil is kept and ecosystems is kept well, and the ecosystems are healthy. And as Jānis mentioned in his remarks, that we shouldn't forget that this is enormous carbon sinks, which are the tool actually for us to reach carbon neutrality. Without healthy ecosystems, soils, oceans, sea basins, we have no really chance of meeting the 2050 objectives.
By the way, if we compare Baltic states, and Lithuania are leading by Nature 2000 territories. You have 23.9%, then Estonia with 18.9%. Only on Latvia we are on the third place with only 12% of territory. So Alda, maybe you can give us also a small comment on that, on the lands.
Yeah. Thank you. Just a short comment as well. It is a very important question that was already touched upon by Jānis, mentioning about the need to compensate in some way for the landowners. And so that is the concept for about paying for ecosystem services. And we have to, so there are two public sources of funding. Commissioner already mentioned CAP, Common Agriculture Policy, So there is a request that from multi-annual financial framework, a certain percentage of the funding should be diverted for protection of biodiversity. So that should be made of good use. And in addition to that, we will also have to review the national system on how to compensate for protection of biodiversity and providing ecosystem services. So that is obviously an important question that will have to be addressed in coming years. Thank you.
Jānis, do you have something to add?
Yes, I think the fisheries question is a typical tragedy of commons. It's when there is no regulation, then people very quickly deplete the resources which there are available. And as Commissioner was mentioning, the cod population in the Baltic Sea is critically endangered. So there is a need for government intervention and clear policy tools to be used so that in the future, in the long term, we can actually sustain the cod population and keep the fisheries alive. And similar situation applies in many other sectors. As well as the compensation mechanism, I think, is very important. And from NGO side, we have looked at the different possibilities how to compensate the landowners, for example, in the forestry also sector, if there is a special protected areas for some bird nest or something like that. I believe there is a need to have natural resource tax or similar tax on, for example, in forestry, which could be then recycled back to the landowners who actually get the whose private lands have these protected areas. So that would be, I think, a fair tool to use to compensate the possible losses. Thank you.
So there's some more questions coming in, and one is from business sector, and they ask for a relatively not so wealthy country like Latvia, will businesses be given time, money to adjust to new higher standards, and will European Green Deal not reduce their competitiveness via richer competitors from Western European countries? This question to Commissioner.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it's a very good question. First of all, Green Deal should give a first movers advantage to those who of course properly implement and take and implement those standards. Absolutely, we always speak about the Green Deal as it cannot happen if we leave someone behind, and by someone we mean of course different sectors, because Green Deal is going to touch horizontally upon almost all sectors, be it agriculture, industry, business, chemicals, or of course or energy, and so on. But the most important is that now it's finalizing the agreement on the next generation EU, and of course new financial framework, where each member state is going to have allocated a huge chunk of public support. And member states are now being busy with the preparation of their recovery and resilience plans. And I think it would be certainly a great timing for Latvia to consider what are those actually businesses who are going to be the most impacted by the transition, and of course to come up with a plan and strategy how to support them over that transition. Most importantly, that there will be public funding available for it. And Commission leaves quite wide, let's say, room for maneuver for member states. What Commission is going to be looking at for in those recovery and resilience plans is twin transition. So that would be green and digital. But rest is of course left for each and every member state to knowing their specifics to decide. Secondly, of course, we should not forget the Just Transition Fund, who aims actually at helping those who will have, especially those regions who will have the hardest transition from one, let's say, energy source to completely other ones. But again, it's the funding which comes from the European Union to help to transit successfully in this transition. Sandis, you muted again.
There is one more question about green transition should deliver opportunities for all. In your opinion, does a risk exist to leave behind people and regions in the European Union, especially after coronavirus pandemic?
I would say that, as I said, you know, the pandemic actually gave us, on contrary, an opportunity to actually rebuild, to build back better, and we have a completely new tool, 750 billion euros of Next Generation EU money, which will be, you know, redistributed among member states, and which can be of a great use. Because if we would be debating a year ago, we would say that yes, lots of this transition, it requires funding, additional funding, and now we have a tool of additional funding. So I would say, on contrary, that would be a huge mistake for member states to be rebuilding from COVID crisis, rebuilding, let's say, back to normal. I would say we have to rebuild better and use this opportunity.
Alda, could you have some comment on last two questions?
Yeah, about the just transition and leaving no one behind and using the opportunity after COVID crisis. I agree that it is up to member states to use the funding in a smart way, use it to reform some more the industries that are more harmful to environment, that are more polluting. And also when planning investments, not spending on activities that could lead to so-called locked-in infrastructure that will, let's say, we should not invest in any fossil fuel infrastructure that will prevent us in the medium and long term to reach the climate target. So it is a responsibility of public sector to be wise and smart, and also to see what are the sectors and probably target groups that are in risk of being left behind, that cannot follow this green transition, and that need to be assisted. Because if certain part of population feels that there is too high a burden on them, that of course endangers the whole process. We saw what happened in some other EU countries, like by raising fuel taxes and so on. So we have to avoid these kind of experiences, and instead of just creating sticks, we also need to create carrots and or compensate some of the additional costs. So that would be my comment on this.
Okay, thank you. And shortly, maybe also Jānis, how you see pandemic influence on Green Deal perspective?
I would agree with what the Commissioner said, that actually pandemic gave us tools and possibilities to ensure this transition, but we have to use them very wisely. just now, while we are speaking here, the Ministry of Finance is organizing actually a discussion about the recovery plan and how and where the EU funding on recovery should be invested. I think it's very important that we are supporting, we are using this funding to support really transition and not reinvest in the project which we have from 5 years ago, which didn't have enough funding to be funded. We really have to be wise and clear on what is necessary, and really see the vision where we want to go and how to reach there. On EU level, there is ongoing work on EU taxonomy, which would show that which of the industries are more green and which we don't want to see in the long term, if I can say so. So I think it's also important in Latvia that we define here the sectors which would be more supported, and this will also help commercial businesses to understand where they are going. I think for business, the long-term policy perspective is very important, because then you are better in planning your finances and investments. And as Alda mentioned, all kind of investments which would lead to lock-in effect, where we are stuck with some kind of waste incinerator or gas pipeline, which is nobody needs anymore, is a waste of money and resources. So I think we have to be really wise on this.
Yeah, time flies. So I see we have only some minutes to go, and there is a lot of questions still. I hope we will continue this discussion maybe next year, or maybe in January. Let's see when the commissioner will have a time. But anyway, it's time to give some conclusions, and that's why I will ask Commissioner, maybe you can give us some overview about today's discussion and say what we can wait for from Green Deal in Latvia and in all Europe.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I loved that lively discussion we had today, and I see from the amount of questions that we definitely should do another citizens dialogue, maybe a live one, and Commissioner will definitely find time. But at the moment, we're not all masters of our time and freedom of journeys, but unfortunately, the COVID pandemic prevent us from. But hopefully, looking into next year, the situation will be better, will be improvement, a major one maybe with the vaccines, and we will be able to meet. I really want to thank all of the people who tuned in and sent us their question. Of course, huge thank you to all of our participants and the representation of the Commission in Latvia for hosting this online event. And for next year, I will say that the most importantly, speaking about the Green Deal, I can only reassure you that the Commission is not going to stop. We have all the major actions planned, and they will be delivered. Of course, what I count is on your support, so that member states they take it and help us to implement it. That's the most important, because Green Deal is not going to happen without you, without every European, and without the member states implementing different actions, whether it's a biodiversity with protecting forests or lands, or it's a circular economy, giving additional new opportunities for our businesses to really rethink their business model from the growth model of using and rather than actually wasting resources, but reusing them. So there is lots of opportunities. I hope that this year we delivered many strategies. Next year we will be keen on delivering them. And of course, you mentioned about those numbers of Natura 2000 areas. You know, Green Deal is not a competition, but we know that Lithuanians, Latvians, Estonians, they always compare among themselves. So I truly count that next year, when they will be comparing among themselves, they will be at the top 3 in the European Union. And that comparison is going to be only in the Baltic bubble in implementing the Green Deal. Let me wish you all to stay strong and stay healthy. Have a very Merry Christmas, maybe different ones this year, but it's the timing we're living. Let's take a good care of each other and our loved ones.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, Commissioner. Also, thanks to Alda and Jānis, and yeah, same Merry Christmas, and hope to see you next. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.